Hello everyone. Today we're going to continue working with brackets. So in the previous video, we looked at the distributive law. That was the law where we expanded brackets. Factorizing is when we write an expression with a common factor outside the brackets. So we're going to be doing the reverse of what we did in the previous video. So just to start with, let's do a refresher on factors. Factors are numbers that can be multiplied by another number to get that number. So here we have 24. So what's some factors of 24? The one that people seem to forget about is 1 and 24. Another one would be 6 and 4. 6 times 4 is 24. Another one would be 12 times 2. And the last one is 8 times 3. These are all my factors of 24. I'm going to be using factors to simplify expressions. Now a quick trick, always write your factors in pairs, like this. That way you'll never miss a factor. So if I was writing out my factors, and I wrote down all of them except this 3, then you can see that we're missing one, because 8 times something must give us 24. I'm going to write down our factors in pairs to find common factors between multiple numbers. Let's go do some examples. Here is our next 3 examples. So what we're going to do is a trick that I call giving each number legs. The reason why I say that is because it looks like we give every number legs. Let's have a look at 5 and 10. So what is the highest common factor between these two numbers? So we're looking for the factor, the highest factor, that's in both 5 and 10. So let's write out the factors. For my 5, I have, so I give him legs. 1 times 5 is my factors for 5. And then when we have 10, we have 1 times 10, and then 2 times 5, which is our highest common factor. Well, you can see that there's a 1 and a 1, and you can also see that there's a 5 and a 5. 5 is our highest common factor. Now we're going to write that 5 outside the brackets and write what's left. What's left is the number that pairs with our highest common factor. So here we have 5, and we're going to take our 5 outside the brackets, and then the pair of that 5 is a 1. So we're just going to write 1. Now we have a plus, so we're going to write a plus. With our 10, the common factor was 5, so we'll write the 5 out the front, and we write what's left, so 2. And we have a y. Let's have a look at the next one. So 24, so let's give it legs. So what numbers were factors of 24? Well, we did that on the previous board. So we had 12 times 2, we had 8 times 3, 24 times 1. Make sure you remember there's always 1 times something in every number. And then we also had 6 times 4. What are our factors of 15? We have 5 times 3, and we have 1 times 15. What's the highest common factor? We have a 12 over here, but we don't have a 12 over here. We have an 8, we don't have an 8. We have a 3, and we have a 3. So let's underline that one. Is there any other numbers that match between these two numbers? Well, doesn't look like there is. So 3 is the highest common factor. So we're going to write the 3 out the front. 3, then draw a bracket. What pairs with my 3? An 8. So we're going to write the 8. Now this here, we have a minus. And now what pairs with our 3? Our 5. And then we also have our x. Let's have a look at this last one. Going to do the same thing, but there's also something else common between these two numbers. Can you see what it is? Both of them are negative. So there is a negative common factor between them. So let's write down our common factors. We have 6 and we have 12, give them legs. So the factors of 6, 3 times 2, and 6 times 1. And our factors of 12, 3 times 4, 6 times 2, and 12 times 1. What's our highest common number? So we have a 2 and a 2. We have a 3 and a 3. We have a 6 and a 6. So 6 is our highest common factor. So let's write that out the front. Now remember, I said before, we also have a negative that's common between these two. So we're going to write the negative out the front. Now we just write what's left. So we got rid of this negative, and if there's nothing there, it means it's a plus. So we have plus. You don't have to put this plus there, but I'm going to put it there for this example. So we took out a 6, and we're left with a 1. And we took out that takeaway, so we're left with a plus. Oops, forgot my z. Put the z in here. And then we have taken out our 6, and so we're just left with a 2. So to factorize this one, we have negative 6 as a highest common factor between them. And then we have plus 1z plus 2. Let's have a look at a couple more examples, which are a little bit longer and have some powers. So here we have 16z, take away 8z squared. What is common between these two numbers? So let's have a look at our factor pairs for 8 and 16. So 16 is 8 times 2. Let's just stop there. We can already see that here is an 8 and here is an 8. So we're already can tell that this 8 is going to be our highest common factor. You can try to look for shortcuts to solve it quicker. So we know that this one is going to be 8 times 1. I still wrote out my factor pair because it helps me write what's in the brackets. However, there's something else that's also common between these two things. This here is z times z. And this here is z times 1. So we also have a common factor of z. So let's write our common factors outside the brackets. So let's underline them. We have an 8 and a z, and an 8 and a z. So let's write 8z out the front. Now what are we left with? We're left with a 2, a 1, so we don't need to write anything there. Take away 1 z. Because we took out this z here, so we don't need it anymore. And we took out this z, so we don't need it anymore. Now, to simplify this a little bit more, we don't need to write this 1 here. So we could rewrite this as 8z 2 minus z. And just like with my x's, how my x's are curved, my 2's and my z's need to be different. My 2's will have a curve up the top, and my z's are very jagged. Another thing some people might do to make sure that their z's are z's is they put this little line through the middle. It's an older way of writing z's, but that's what some people do. Let's have a look at our last one. Now this one has 3 terms. So we're going to look at each one individually and find the highest common factor. Are there any letters that are the same? Are there any pronumerals that match? Well, not in this one, so we don't have to worry about them. So let's have a look. So 15 is 5 times 3, and 15 times 1. 20 is 4 times 5, 10 times 2, and then 20 times 1. And then our 30 is 5 times 6, 10 times 3, 15 times 2. Let's look for the highest common factor between all 3 of these terms. So this one has a 15, the one on the end has a 15, but the one in the middle doesn't have a 15, so that's not the highest common factor. This one has 5, the middle one has a 5, and the last one has a 5. So that must be our highest common factor. It's the highest number that's in every single term. So let's write out what we have. So let's write 5 out the front. That's the common factor. Then what's left? We have a 3, because that's next to the 5. 3x plus, and what was next to my 5? We have a 4. So this is 4y, and then we have a minus, and what was next to our 5? It was a 6. Oops, I forgot my bracket over here. Good luck with those questions, and I'll see you in the next video.